President Bola Tinubu arrives Rio de Janeiro, Brazil for G20 Leaders Summit.
Nigeria and India strengthen bilateral ties on trade.
I'm confident that our discussions will enhance Nigerian-India relations on the basis of mutual respect and shared mission.
Reactions as INEC declares Lucky Ayedatiwa winner of Ondo Governorship election.
Lucky Orimisan of APC, having satisfied the requirement of the law, is hereby declared the winner and is returned elected.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall focus on the just concluded Ondo Governorship election and much later, engineering solutions to food security.
With boasted hearts and hopeful enthusiasm, the people of Ondo State exercised their franchise last Saturday in a demonstration of democratic governance.
Indeed, a demoline in what many describe as a resounding landslide victory, the electorate endorsed Lucky Ayedatiwa as the governor of the Sunshine State, declared by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC.
You might recall that Governor-elect Lucky Ayedatiwa, candidate of the All Progressive Congress in Saturday's governorship election in Ondo State, emerged winner, pulling 366,781 votes, triumphing in the 18 local government areas of the state.
And he was massively ahead of his closest rival, Agbola Ajayi of the People's Democratic Party, who pulled in 117,845 votes.
Yeah, it's another 4-year mandate by the electorate for the re-elected governor in an off-cycle election that stood the test of time.
Absolutely, and with over 2 million registered voters in 3,933 polling units across 203 wards, the stage was set for the next occupant of the Alagbaka Government House in Akure, the state capital.
Yes, Alagbaka Government House. Although some electorates say the election was free, fair, and devoid of violence, others believe the peaceful end to the Ondo governorship election was marred by vote trading, vote buying, and vote apathy, a recurrent issue in Nigeria's electoral process.
Now, aside from that, INEC has been getting knocks over late deployment of electoral materials, but this time around, the case seemed reportedly different.
Perhaps better days are ahead, however, from being a deputy governor to an acting governor, now substantive governor, and now a re-elected governor for the second time. Luck has indeed smiled on Lucky Ayedatiwa, who against all odds and impeachment scare is set on a mission of emancipation and good governance as he occupies the #1 seat in Ondo State. So today on Good Morning Nigeria, we will review Saturday's governorship election in Ondo State. I am Ademola Adeoye. This is Good Morning Nigeria. Welcome to the program.
And the first for the week, and I'm Juma Yusuf. We have a second topic that explores sustainable engineering solutions to food security and climate change. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. We're broadcasting live on the network service of the NTA. In a moment, we'll begin with highlights of the morning news, but much later, newspaper review. Our newspaper reviewer, Chukudi Okoli Baja, will be joining us. Now, let's join Comfort Ahmadu for the morning news. Hello, Comfort.
Hello, Jumai. Good morning. Good morning, Nigerians. Here are the highlights of the news with President Bola Tinubu arriving Rio de Janeiro, Brazil to attend the 19th meeting of the G20 Leaders Summit taking place in the South American country. The presidential airplane landed in Galeão International Airport, Rio de Janeiro, at a few minutes past 11 p.m. local time on Sunday. He was received by Ambassador Breno Costa from the Brazilian Ministry of External Relations. An earlier statement by the Presidential Advisor on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, implies that the Nigerian leader's participation is at the instance of the Brazilian president and current president of the group, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. The summit holding from Monday, November 18 to Tuesday, 19 will bring together leaders from the world's top 20 economies, including the European Union, the African Union, and multilateral financial institutions, among others. President Tinubu is also expected to hold bilateral meetings on the sidelines of the summit in advancement of Nigerian socio-economic reforms. He is expected to return to Nigeria at the end of the visit. Nigeria and India have signed Memorandum of Understanding on new areas of collaboration to further strengthen the bilateral ties between both countries. This was a major outcome of the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's state visit to Nigeria on the invitation of President Bola Tinubu. President Tinubu conferred on his guest a national honor of the Grand Commander of the Order of Niger.
I'm confident that our discussions will enhance Nigerian-Indian relations on the basis of mutual respect and shared mission.
The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has declared Lucky Ayedatiwa of the All Progressives Congress winner of the governorship election in Ondo State. The declaration was made after Ayedatiwa secured a total number of 366,781 votes to defeat other contestants.
Ayedatiwa Lucky Orimisan of APC, having satisfied the requirement of the law, is hereby declared the winner and is returned elected.
Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu felicitates with the winner of Saturday's Ondo State governorship election, Lucky Ayedatiwa of the All Progressives Congress, while also commending the peaceful conduct of the process. In a message through his media aide, President Tinubu commended INEC for the efficiency of uploading more than 98% of results on the same day of the elections. The president also extends his appreciation to security outfits for their professionalism in maintaining peace and order. Also, former President Muhammadu Buhari has expressed happiness with the success of the All Progressives Congress, APC, in the governorship election in Ondo State, which returned Governor Lucky Ayedatiwa with a landslide victory. In his reaction to the outcome of the election, the former president said the voters had spoken lucidly and loudly about the confidence they have in the party and the governor, and their wish expressed through the ballot box should be respected by other stakeholders. In another development, the leadership of the People's Democratic Party says the November 16, 2024 governorship election in Ondo State runs short of all expectations and requirements of a free, fair and credible election, alleging that it witnessed the height of electoral swindle, deceit and manipulation. The party's National Publicity Secretary, in a message issued in Abuja, emphasized that the election witnessed widespread election merchandising, monetization, and vote buying. And those are the highlights of the news for now. Good morning, Nigeria continues with Jumai and Demola after this break. Good morning.
From the Atlantic across the savannah to the Sahara, we rise, a land of the free, we know they tire. We dream great, our spirit is undying.
Resilient, rooted like palm tree, we swear in colors, with undying demand. We make solutions, we ignite passion, yeah. Diversity is unique, we have more than the solution.
We are Nigeria, we are Nigeria, strengthening unity, we know they carry last. We are Nigeria, together live the dream of a land with great destiny. We are Nigeria.
I am the real Nigerian. Brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
My champs, they use energy at school.
Your champs need nourishing energy. Give them the new and improved Milo at breakfast.
It has nutrients that support energy release.
TerraCube. Unwrap joy. Unleash taste.
Win a brand new car. Make a purchase of 10 million naira or more at any Vento Furniture store and stand a chance to drive home a brand new car.
Vento Furniture. Addictive quality.
What wakes you up in the morning? Is it the sunrise? Is it the alarm? No. It's your dream that wakes you every day. It's what drives you like a powerful engine. That's why you start strong every day with the rich, creamy taste of Nescafe 3-in-1, carefully crafted from selected coffee beans. You're on your hustle, and you won't stop until you succeed. Start strong. Finish strong.
Some say learning is fun, but as a mom, I see how demanding it can be for my child. That's why I ensure he starts every day with a cup of Bonvita. Bonvita, prepare them to win every day.
Our food, our health, our tomato paste. There is no tomato paste, the taste of Nigeria. There is no tomato paste, yeah. Vegetable tomato paste, Siwani. 100% natural tomato. Namune, alelelelelele, oh, alelele, oh, ale. There is no tomato paste, the taste of Nigeria.
In a world hungry for goodness, with a splash of golden Terra oil, a mom can transform a frown into a smile. Make a lunch hour a happy hour. Change no thanks into yes please. Provide care when our nearest and dearest needs it most. And resolve family feuds without blowing a whistle. Providing tasty, nourishing family meals is all that matters. The world needs moms, because where there are moms, there is hope, happiness, and love. Golden Terra Oil, or pure love.
My champs, they use energy at school.
Your champs need nourishing energy. Give them the new and improved Milo at breakfast.
It has nutrients that support energy release.
Imagine lovely meals you can cook with these ingredients. You spend heavily, but no guarantee of a tasty meal. Not making a right choice of seasoning cube can ruin your meal, money, and confidence. For a tasty meal, do not compromise. Choose Gold.
Use Terra Gold for the rich, consistent taste your loved ones crave for. Good for soups, stews, and jollof. Terra Gold. One cube, endless possibilities.
Is a new group emerging in Nigeria as the Northwest coming under siege with escalating deadly attacks. Lakurawa. Who are the members of this group? Where are they coming from? What are their operating capabilities? Find out on NTA Tuesday Live, coming up on the 19th November 2024. NTA Tuesday Live on checkmating resurgence of terrorism in the Northwest. It promises to be inclusive, incisive, and educative as ever. Join us.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria, and up next on our lineup is newspaper review.
Well, our newspaper reviewer is here, Chukwudi Okoli Ugbaja. Chuks.
Hello, Demola. How
Chuks
are you
the boy.
today?
It's
a wonderful
morning. Can you see? I've not even finished acknowledging your own, hailing when she joined Chuks the boy. I didn't. God just made me so popular. No, we thank you for small mercies. Hello, Jumai. How are
your
you?
Weekend?
I like your apparel this morning.
Thank you.
You dress well all the time anyway. It was a good weekend. The Hamatan is
It's
biting
here.
more and more.
Yes.
It's okay. It started very early this year.
Yes. So let's quickly go to the papers. I have the Leadership newspaper. I'll begin with it. And above the masthead, on page 6, Mina Chief Imam dies at 93, as above the masthead of the Leadership newspaper. Kebbi government denies illegal mining allegation. You find the details on page 19. And below the masthead, Nasima petitions FG over NIBC India's operations. Find the details on page 7. FG douses tension, says tax reform to ensure equitable VAT sharing. Details on page 4. At the side piece of the picture story, Tinubu off to Brazil for G20 Leaders Summit. On page 16, ex-NIA DG Zachary Ibrahim dies at 81. Details on page 6. Ribado leads delegation to Chad. President Deby. Details on page 21. Military pounds terrorist planning attack on troops. Find the details on page 6. And the picture stories and the headlines in the Leadership newspaper. Elections. CSOs seek improvement on disability inclusion. With riders as Tinubu Buhari orders hail Ayedatiwa's victory in Ondo. We are reviewing governorship outcome that's coming from the People's Democratic Party. Results consistent with our PRVT findings, Yaga Africa. And the picture story you see there, President Bola Tinubu decorates Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi with national honor of Grand Commander of the Order of the Niger during his state visit to Nigeria at the Presidential Villa, Abuja, yesterday. Let's quickly go to the Blueprint newspaper. The Blueprint newspaper above the masthead, NAF, airstrikes eliminate bandit leaders, key loyalists in Zamfara. Find details on page 7. And below the masthead, AFCON, Super Eagles target victory over Rwanda. That is in our sports segment. And beside the picture story there, 2025 budget, MTEF, FSP tax reform bills top agenda as National Assembly resumes. And the headlines in the Blueprint newspaper, after my victory, let's build Ondo State together, Ayedatiwa tells Ajayi orders. With Rider, Ghana's 366,781 votes to floor PDP candidate with 117,835. And Tinubu APC orders hail victory. PDP kicks. And Sultan urges brotherliness, says Nigeria's unity not negotiable. With Rider, keep promoting religious harmony. Olubadan charges NSCIA leader. Over 400,000 women living with VVF in Nigeria. That's coming from the center. I don't know which center there. You find the details on page 15. Concerns as Nigeria's debt set to hit $45.1 billion in 2024, and over $300 billion investment attracted to free zones in January 2024. That's coming from NEWS24. And Women Radio launches Nigeria's first AI-driven virtual broadcasting. That's quite interesting. You want to know what's all about, you go to page 7. Ademola.
All right, I have the This Nigeria newspaper. Just beside the nameplate, we have Lagos residents worry as onion price rises by 50%. Lagos residents worry as onion price rises by 50%. Details of that story can be found on page 12. And the major headline is still the Ondo, the outcome of the Ondo elections. Ondo, how Ayedatiwa of APC knocked out PDP's Agbola to clinch Goba seats. Opposition rejects results, alleges vote buying manipulation. We worked assiduously to achieve success, says Sanwo-Olu, APC election campaign chair. Then we have 3,767 killed, 22,373 others injured in auto crashes nationwide. That's the statistics given by the FRSC. Details of that story can be found on page 25. Troops recover arms, seize stolen crude oil, deactivate criminal boats in Niger Delta. Details can be found on page 13. Nigeria-India reinforce strategic partnership as Tinubu confers GCON on Moody. Ohaneze to President use visits to seek release of 1.3 million Nigerians in Indian prison. Then we have the picture of the Indian Prime Minister with the FCT Minister and the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Mrs. Bianca Ojukwu. Well, Chooks, APC knocked out PDP's the headlines.
Yes.
Knocked out like a bout.
Yes.
Like the Tyson fight.
But it was practically predictable, you know. We know polls in Nigeria get influenced by those who want to be voted in. They are not as scientific as what we see abroad. But anyway, didn't somebody say that Kamala Harris was marginally ahead of Trump? And at the end of the day, Trump took all the 7 swing states.
Took the popularity vote.
So our polls here are not very reliable. But I want to think that many of us thought that Ayedatiwa, Nigerian names must never be messed up by broadcasters.
No way.
Very important. I think many of us knew he was going to take it, clinch it. And the good thing is that the CSOs are not talking about the vote buying, the malpractices. The opposition party, the main opposition party, PDP, expectedly, because in Nigeria nobody ever says it went well. Expectedly,
especially if
accuses people of manipulating.
And both candidates from the PDP and APC were deputy governors of the late governor of Ondo State.
Yes, so it should have been battle royal.
Yeah.
But you see, in Nigeria, you have to live with the fact that people still vote for kith and kin.
Yeah.
We've not matured out of it. I pray for the day when Africa will start voting for the man who actually will deliver. It doesn't matter where he comes from. So it's a fact of our current life.
Yes.
We accept it. We'll get past it.
Yes, the Indian Prime Minister was here yesterday.
Narendra Modi.
Narendra Modi.
Yes.
And what Demola read something. 1.2 million Nigerians in Indian prisons.
I dare say that they had become forgotten entities, because I want to confess that I didn't know that number.
Yes.
A number of people were languishing, in Indian prisons. India, of all countries.
I was wondering, 1.2 million Nigerians.
We'll talk about UK, US, Canada.
And they have one of the worst.
India.
One of the
I'm
worst.
not denigrating any nation. Do my
No. And they have one of the worst prisons in the world, actually.
Yeah.
1.2. So how many Nigerians are there that they have 1.2 million Nigerians in prison in India?
Well, you see, this Ohane's statistics is not verified, so you cannot really say that's the accurate number.
But the most important thing is that our attention has been called to a situation that is not quite palatable, to the green, white, green flag. What do we need to do to ensure that justice actually was meted out properly? And those are the things that should concern us.
Yes.
You know, nationalism must always flow in our veins. If indeed some of them committed crimes, we want to say that they should go in for it, because they went out there to give us a bad name. But there are some that may have been imprisoned not too justly. You understand?
Yeah.
So we must work at ensuring that justice has been done in each of their cases. And maybe if there is any...
Chooks, you have 1 more minute.
Oh, on just two topics? Oh my God.
So
it's okay.
Talk on another
It's
topic.
okay. So if there's any iota of doubt concerning the conviction of any of them, foreign affairs people should go out.
The Diaspora Commission should.
The Diaspora Commission as well. You know, the Abike, the unit or department should also, Abike Dabiri, should work at getting them released as well. That's what I think about it.
Yes.
I don't know why Demola decided that today we're not going to. I am happy that the military preempted an attack.
Yes.
Very important. We are beginning to be preemptive, not reactive. And just the other time, we started hearing about the decapitation that is taking out the leaders of the different. It will percolate down to their subjects. Nigeria is winning the war.
Thank you very much, Nigeria.
Thank you so much. It's winning the war against the banditry and insurgents. Thank you so much. We'll be right back.
My champs, they use energy at school.
Your champs need nourishing energy. Give them the new and improved Milo at breakfast.
It has nutrients that support energy release. Milo!
TerraCube. Unwrap joy. Unleash taste.
In a world hungry for goodness, with a splash of golden Terra oil, a mom can transform a frown into a smile. Make a lunch hour a happy hour. Change no thanks into yes please. Provide care when her nearest and dearest needs it most. And resolve family feuds without blowing a whistle. Providing tasty, nourishing family meals is all that matters. The world needs moms, because where there are moms, there is hope, happiness, and love. Golden Terra Oil, for pure love.
The counsel of our fathers.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
My champs, they use energy at school.
Your champs need nourishing energy. Give them the new and improved Milo at breakfast.
It has nutrients that support energy release.
The
The federal government of Nigeria warns vandals of national assets, electricity transmission towers, cables and other facilities to desist from this act of sabotage. Vandalism is a serious crime punishable under the law. Vandalizing electrical equipment will affect millions of Nigerians, including your loved ones. Remember that national assets belong to all of us, hence the need to protect them. Report all cases of suspicious movement around electrical facilities to security agencies. When you see something, say something. This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation in collaboration with the National Counter-Terrorism Center, NCTC, Office of the National Security Advisor.
Nigeria means a lot to me.
And Nigeria means peaceful cohesion.
My country.
We continue to pray, and then hopefully we will come to understand that unity of purpose, unity of living together.
Our ethnic beliefs and background and culture is our strength.
Ever since the amalgamation period of 1914 to date, about 109 years ago, the people of Nigeria live very peacefully with one another.
I think diversity helps a lot to enhance robust development in Nigeria.
All over the country, you have so many ethnic groups, over 250. That is enough to tell you that this is a blessed country, and God has kept together as one indivisible entity.
There's a new group emerging in Nigeria as the Northwest coming under siege with escalating deadly attacks. Lakurawa. Who are the members of this group? Where are they coming from? What are their operating capabilities? Find out on NTA Tuesday Live, coming up on the 19th November 2024. NTA Tuesday Live on checkmate and resurgence of terrorism in the Northwest. It promises to be inclusive, incisive, and educative as ever. Join us.
Well, thanks for staying with us. You're still on to Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. Just before we bring in our panel of guests for our conversation on the review of Ondo Governorship election, let's take this background report by Ibrahim Bello Gunda.
Ondo State, known as the Sunshine State, witnessed the contest for #1 seat in the state across its 3,933 polling units, 203 wards and 18 local government areas, with a total of 2,053,061 registered voters out of its 5,316,603 population. The election was a battle between the incumbent All Progressive Congress Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa against 17 other candidates, including a former Deputy Governor Agbola Ajayi of the People's Democratic Party. 18 political parties contested in the polls with promise to better the living condition of the people, among others. The much-anticipated Ondo State governorship election took off last Saturday, November 16th, which was described as peaceful in most parts of the state. Observers say the process witnessed low turnout of voters compared to previous exercise, with negligible reports of electoral infringement. However, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, was able to distribute electoral materials and ensure smooth process in most parts of Ondo State. After computation of results from the 18 local government areas, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, declared Lucky Aiyedatiwa of the All Progressive Congress as the winner of the Ondo State governorship election. Aiyedatiwa defeated his closest rival, Agbola Ajayi of the People's Democratic Party, having secured 366,781 votes against Ajayi's 117,845 votes. The APC also clinched victory in all 18 local government areas of the state. Labour Party and Zenith Labour Party polled 1,162 and 2,692 votes, respectively, with others trailing behind. The results were announced by the collation officer, Professor Olayemi Akinwumi, at INEC State Headquarters in Akure. While reacting to the governorship election in Ondo State, the leadership of the People's Democratic Party said the election runs short of all expectations of a free, fair and credible election, citing widespread election monetization and vote buying. But the question is, after the election, what next? What should Ondo State residents expect in the coming days? How should the other opponents behave in the spirit of sportsmanship while ensuring it is all about the good of the state and its people? These and more will be the focus of Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you, Ibrahim Bello-Gunda, for the background report. And joining us now in the studio for a review of the Ondo Governorship election is Faith Nwadishi, Executive Director, Center for Transparency Advocacy. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a while.
Thank you.
And also here in the studio is Nick Dazang, former Director of Voter Education and Publicity, INEC. Welcome.
Thank you.
We've had you over the weekend and you're still here.
Yes.
Thank you so much for
it's
your
my
time.
pleasure always.
Yes, as always.
All right. Also joining us here in the studio, we have Hamza Lawal, who's the Chief Executive Officer, Connected Development. Hamza, you're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria once again.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
All right. So let's kickstart our conversation this morning by reviewing that the last Saturday governorship election. Let's start with Madam here, Faith. You were there all through last week, I guess. I mean, you were on ground, you saw what happened. And from your assessment, what would you say are the key factors that influence Saturday's governorship election in the outcome of the election on the governorship election in Ondo State?
Okay, thank you, and thank you again for having me. The Ondo election, if I want to assess the key factors, I would assess it by the participation of the different stakeholders. So let me start first with INEC. I think INEC learned a lot from what happened in Edo and made a commitment to work on that. For instance, the logistics. The logistics was near perfect, but not perfect. It cannot be perfect. I remember on Thursday when we were at the Central Bank, the lead of the logistics team, they have a technical logistics team, and the lady was just reading the riot act to all the members of that team. If I don't see you here, I'm going to blacklist you. If I don't see, So I was very excited. I saw that happening. I saw that commitment, the power that she had, and she was really being assertive. I think that really helped, that helped a lot. And then the fact that also materials arrived on time. I was in Ondo on Monday, and that was the day that they brought the sensitive materials to the airport. Usually it will come in on Tuesday, like they came a day earlier. So on Wednesday, we went to do an inspection in the CBN strong room of those materials. Already the materials were bashed in the local government areas, the number, you see even the serial numbers and everything there. And on Thursday was the distribution. I went from there to the local government, to the racks, just to ensure. And we saw that things were moving very well. Then on election day, surprisingly, by 7:30, 7:45, I had visited like 3 to 4 polling units, and they were already set up. They were already set up, waiting for the people to come. Some had security agents there, some had, there was one particular place, I saw a woman that came out as early as 7:30, and she said she came with her daughter and she was going to vote, she was waiting patiently. So that's on the side of INEC, but it wasn't all rosy. There were some rack centers that we went to, they were not properly set up. They had those kind of issues, which I think we should look at going forward. I know that, for instance, those rack centers are supposed to have been prepared by the other stakeholders. Let's say you're using a primary school or a secondary school that is a public school. You expect that everything will be in order. You will have, if it's a hostel, the hostel will be good. You have light, you have water. But we saw that some of these things were not available. And this is what we keep saying, that when it comes to election, INEC becomes the water tanker, the electricity provider and all of that. Those things needs to be checked. Then on the political side, I will say again that the politicians have continuously been the weakest link in all of this. Now, for all of these inspections that we went to, 18 parties are fielding candidates, but you don't see more than 3-4 party agents coming to those meetings. Imagine going to inspect sensitive materials, and you had just about 6 or 7 political parties agents who were there, and then you go to the polling units, we had just 2 political parties, agents there on that day. And then you see political parties carrying money around, wanting to sell votes. In one of the polling units that I was at St. Stephen's Anglican Primary School, the DSS has arrested a party agent that had money and machete in his car, and vote buying was just on there. So on the side of citizens, I want to say that perhaps we need to begin to pay more attention to citizens, and the same kind of attention we should be giving to the politicians, we should give to citizens. Because before the election, I had the privilege of even going to the markets and along asking people what, and they said no, they're going to sell their votes. I had this, this saying long time ago in Ekiti, and I had it again in Ondo, Diboko Sobe, that's vote and make a pot of soup. And people were saying, yes, they're going to make a pot of soup. Yesterday I saw 1 or 2 persons I had interviewed, and I was saying, okay, you have voted, you have gotten the money. I hope the money will last. The pot of soup you are going to make will last for the next 4 years. So vote buying was there because citizens were willing to sell their votes. And then again, on the aspect of citizens, we keep talking about the role of young persons. So you go to the polling unit where people are voting, you're seeing not younger people, but young people, young adults. You're not seeing those between the ages of 18 to 30. You're not seeing them in their numbers, but you're seeing in the numbers those between 30 to even 90 years old. I had the opportunity in one polling unit to interview a woman in her 80s, her early 80s, the other one is her mid 80s, and the other one was about 93 years old, and she was a person with disability in one particular polling unit. But the sad thing was that among these 3 women that I interviewed, one of them, after speaking with them, was asking me, where is her money? Where wouldn't I give her money? So people came there, and the INEC officials, now that's one part I didn't say, were very professional. Luckily, we saw that those who were trained were the ones deployed, unlike in the past when you keep complaining that the people who were not trained were the ones that are doing that. But you saw, because they had gone through that training, they were very professional in handling the equipment that they were given. And then the beavers performed wonderfully. I sat down again like I did in Edo to time the time between the accreditation of the beavers to when the person would vote. Apart from the very first 2 persons, because of that initial, they're being jiltry, because of the population and all of that, the first 2 persons took about 3 minutes. But after then, it was taking up between 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes to do that. And the beavers was accrediting in less than 30 seconds.
Wow, that's fast.
The beavers, yes, was accrediting in less than 30 seconds.
We'll get deeper
what about the security agencies?
Yes, okay, so I was going to come to that. The security agents did very well. On Tuesday, we had a stakeholders meeting. The Chief of Navy Staff actually sent his representative to that meeting, and they gave an update of what they were going to do. But we had a little bit of challenge because the Inspector General, there were 3 different figures that were branded by the police that they were going to deploy. There was this 22,000, then after 35,000, and then the early morning on Saturday or Friday, on your program, I saw also the police representative talking about over 36,000.
Yeah.
So we weren't sure of the actual number from 22 to 35 and then to over 36,000. They said they were going to have at least 4 policemen on the polling unit. However, what we found were there were 4 security officers in each polling unit, but not 4 police officers. Okay. So when you go to the polling unit, you're seeing 1 police officer, 1 immigration, road safety, depending on who is there. Okay. Even the correctional service, they were there. But they were just there. And there was one particular polling unit we went to, and we saw a nursing mother, security agent nursing mother. And I asked her, how old is your son? And he's 4 months. And she's on duty, and I'm wondering, why would you deploy a nursing mother out here? That's another. I've never seen that. This is the first time I'm seeing that. So apart from all of this, I think the security agents overall did very well, but the whole issue of vote buying, and one of our expert team members in the polling unit, he was at a police officer actually approached him asking for money. He thought he was a party agent. So when he introduced himself and said, no, I'm not a party agent, I am an observer, he left him and went to the next party agent and said, where is our share of the money?
Okay, we'll get to talk more about that as the program progresses. Let's bring in Nick Dazang into the conversation. It seems like INEC is beginning to regain its credibility in the electoral process with the Ondo election, but one issue that has burdened Nigerians when it comes to election is the menace of vote buying, and people say it's a threat to the Nigerian democracy that has continued to be a source of concern. You'll be in the studio over the weekend, though you were not on ground in Ondo, and you'll be listening to reporters bringing in their reports from all corners of Ondo. So let's have your own assessments of how it went down.
Yes, I think what happened in Ondo is a significant improvement on Edo in terms of early opening of polls, in terms of logistics, which also informed the early opening of polls, the professional conduct of both INEC staff, security agencies, the robust support of the security agencies, particularly in the riverine areas. Perhaps for the first time since 2016, we've not had any mishap in the riverine areas. And that speaks to the kind of robust support that the Marine Police and the Navy would have given. And we also saw the seamless performance of the Beavers and the IRF. This is the way to go. And I think by this election, INEC has embarked on its journey of earning trust with stakeholders. And I think INEC too needs to see that its performance should not be oscillating between stellar performance and mediocre performance. It must be on that path, that trajectory of excellence. And I say this because they need to ensure that Nigerians don't see what happened in Ondo as a fluke, as a flash in the pan, as something that just happened by mistake. It needs to be sustained, and the sustenance is important for continuing to earn trust and for also the conduct of subsequent elections, because Anambra is the next off-cycle governorship election. And Anambra is more challenging. It has always been more challenging than Edo and Ondo and Osun and Ekiti put together, in the sense that, number one, since the past 3 or 4 election cycles, no voter turnout in Anambra has crossed the 20% threshold.
Why is that?
So, and it has to do with a lot of factors. One of which is that over time, we have seen heightened insecurity, particularly in 2020, when the federal government had to intervene to ensure that elections took place in Anambra, and where at the last minute a lot of ad hoc staff pulled out of the election. And when that happens, there are consequences for the fidelity, for the transparency of the election, because you would have trained people, like she has observed, and then the person you have trained has withdrawn with the knowledge that you have conferred on him, that you've invested in him. And now you are recruiting someone who has not been trained. He's not proficient in using the beavers or the IRF. He does not know the processes, And even now, as we speak, there are issues. For example, the electoral access, the superior presiding officer, the supervising presiding officer, the SPO, at each polling unit has the right to direct the security agencies to remove anyone who is conducting himself against the laws and conventions of voting on election day. Okay. For example, if vote buying is taking place in a polling unit, the presiding officer is by law expected to direct the security agency to effect the arrest of the person perpetrating that. But it seems to me that most of the ad hoc staff don't even know that they have that power, because someone has not done his job of telling them that, look, when this happens, this is what you ought to do.
So what happens during the training? Are they not told?
So that's what I'm saying, that
Yes.
this needs to be captured in view of what is happening. We have seen over time, I think in not less than 15 years now, the rampant deployment of money to buy and sell votes. Politicians weaponize poverty, and they take advantage of this poverty to buy the votes of vulnerable Nigerians. And also the system is such that the returns on investment of any business in Nigeria is highest at the political level. So we need to make political office unattractive. We need to make political office service driven. It shouldn't be a place where people just go to ingratiate themselves, to luxuriate in the office. People should deliver good governance. And at the same time, we need to work on the citizens. We need to do more voter education, not just the normal voter education. We need to tweak and to tweak our messages in such a fashion that people will realize the folly of collecting money in order to sell their votes. Okay, you've taken money to make a pot of soup. How long will that pot of soup last? Will that pot of soup provide a road for you? Will it provide a hospital for you? Will it build a school where your child or ward will attend? So this on balance, when you now bring up this to the fore of electoral discussion, you let people know that, look, this is what you are doing. You are shortchanging yourself by so doing. And in addition, you have given up your right to hold the person who is representing you to account. And also, he's not obligated to deliver good governance. I recall an incident in one of the Northwest states where a senator, after he had been elected, hardly even went to his constituency. And then when some of his constituents in Abuja confronted him, he said, but I settled you guys a long time ago. So anytime I want to come back, I will come and consult you and settle you again. But for now, leave me alone. So you can see the temerity.
A sad situation we find ourselves.
And the sad situation in which we find ourselves, because you have already mortgaged yourself. You've sold your birthright for a pot of or a plate of porridge,
including that of your children.
And in fact, you have mortgaged the future of generations, not just yourself. So we need to make people understand this, that if you take this money after the pot of soup, Otiton is finished.
What happens after?
What happens? So we need the voter education also needs to reflect the coloration of the dimension of the bad things that are happening in the field. Not just, you don't just go and say, stop this. Let people understand why they should stop it. We need to be more imaginative. We need to be more proactive. We need to appeal to people's sense of patriotism. And the only way you can do it is to make them understand that when you do this, you are the loser, for it. And the other man does not have any obligation towards you anymore.
Thank you very much, Nick, for that, your contribution there. We need to tell people that you can take the decision, but what is the consequences of your decision? That is the most important thing. Yes. You have raised a lot of issues, the issue of voters' education, the issue of sustainability of the INEC performance this election. Let's come to Amza. I mean, before the election, there was so many permutation, prediction, and all that. Many people actually expected that Ondo election would be better than that of Edo State because of the foreseeing the stress or the tension in Edo and all that. Would you say the outcome actually aligned, with the prediction of the election and everything like that? Would you say the outcome of the election aligned with what was predicted?
Oh yes, it did align with some of the prediction. We know that Edo was heated, the polity was heated because of the players, but that of Ondo was not heated. In short, we saw that the politicians in Ondo probably learned from Edo. We didn't see a lot of fake news, misinformation, and disinformation. We didn't see a lot of threat or hate speeches by this political class. So it was commending and encouraging that both the ruling and opposition party were not at loggerhead. And we saw that even during the peace accord, no one opted out that they would not sign onto the peace accord. And they actually attended most of the civil society gathering. Okay. They shared their manifestos, shared their ideas. There were lots of debate and engagement in Ondo State. And I think, it did actually exceed expectation. And even post-election, we've not seen any post-election agitation or violence that usually erupts, after our results have been announced and winners declared. Yes, we know that some political parties and politicians would always reject the results, which has been the trend. We've not seen statesmanship where people would accept or congratulate whoever emerges winners. But I also think it's encouraging because when you look at the processes, both from security side, from INEC side, it's really encouraging. Again, as much as we want to talk about some of the expectations and how citizens or the electorate play their own role, I would try not to blame them. Not that I'm trying to make excuse for them, but I think that it's a time for us to reflect, as we engage in electoral processes. There's an economic factor here, and we are all living in Nigeria. Even if we as civil society will continue to educate and inform citizens that don't sell your vote, your vote is your future. The vote is something that has allowed everybody to be equal, because even all the candidates, they're only entitled to one vote. But I think that it has all started with the money politics. And you see, I agree with my sister, Faith. But I think we need to focus on the politicians. You see, if you look at every election cycle, everybody is ready, but the politicians are never ready. The only thing they are ready about is money. And it starts from internal party democracy. How they self-party nomination and expression of interest form. How they deal with the primaries, either direct or indirect primaries. How they deal with consultation. And how they believe that they need to amass so much money or go and get money bags or political sponsors and bring money on election day. Let's go back to even the off-cycle election of Kogi, Bayelsa, and Imo. Money played a lot in Bayelsa. That it started from 5,000 and went as high as 15 to 20,000. So it was about the highest bidder. And it's so sad that even post-election, there was no review. What we had expected is civil society and security will come and say, how can we curb these banners? I give it to DSS because their stink operation, we've seen that it's yielding results. I'm not sure why EFCC would do an operation and you would bring your badges and you bring your banners or your jackets writing here. If you see people buying or selling vote and they see EFCC from a distance, they would run. But nobody saw DSS coming because it was a stink on the ground. They caught the guy red-handed, so they were evident. Okay. And there was civil society observers, even had media. It was carried live because I was watching it live when they did the stick operation and recovered Ghana Must Go full of cash. I think we need to focus on these politicians and look at how economically it is impacting our election, because you cannot separate election from economics. It is what is obtainable from the economic reality that we would see in the after or during and the aftermath of election. Now, people did not come out to vote. So if you look at who is this economy impacting more? Are the young people. Yes. So to them, why would they engage? Why would they come out when they are not seeing direct or indirect benefit? What they are seeing is civil society and media continue to give them hope. Where is the hope? Why is it not happening now? So again, I think we need to come up with this accountability framework that we can hold people to account, but interrogate and engage the internal party democracy. Because if we don't get it right, you see, even my sister, when we talk about gender equality or equity, it starts from the political party. If we don't get it right from political party, this will transcend to election day, and we'll continue to see money bags. Maybe we need to embrace the digital economy or cashless economy. That, you know, and maybe somehow we need to work with all these anti-corruption agencies to try tracking who is withdrawing this cash, and maybe with the, I'm sure we can work with the CBN and bankers to see how these monies are moving and target the serial number. So whoever is coming to pay back this money, how did you get this money? And then interrogate and investigate and hold these people to account. That why it is criminal to bring money on election day to buy vote. It is criminal. The law frowns against it. And I think the law enforcement agents, particularly the police, must rise up to the occasion. You see, I say police because either you say DSS, you say EFCC, ICPC, all of them. The police have more powers because they are the apex law enforcement agency. The police does not even need a petition to investigate or summon anybody. They have those powers as prescribed by law. And they must rise to the occasion. But it is really sad and disheartening. Because if we continue like this, maybe we'll go to Anambra. And then, because you see, like you said, Anambra is, the dynamics in Anambra is complicated.
Yes.
And if we don't nip this by the ball, then what happens even when we go to 2027 general election?
Which is just around the corner with time. How time flies these days. Before you know, it's 2027. Madam Faith, he talked about the youths, you know, not willing to participate in the electoral process. But some school of thought also say they must participate to bring change.
Exactly. Everybody needs to participate to bring about change, because you cannot stay outside of the circle and make a very valid contribution. Democracy, as we say, is listening to the voice of the majority. And right now, we look at it, when we describe Nigeria's population, we describe Nigeria's population as a young population, because we have that youth bulge there. So imagine that you have that youth bulge and that percentage of individuals are not actively participating in this process. It means that we have a huge problem. So you have over 2 million people registered, and somebody is declared with 300 and something votes, 300 something thousand votes. We should sit down and reflect. We should sit down and assess that. So now we see that the politicians are using money to buy votes. If you come out as a young person, you come out to vote, you're not collecting money, your vote begins to count, because the whole idea is, they say, our votes don't count. That's why young people don't come out. Imagine a situation whereby 10% of the youth population in that state came out to vote. Perhaps today we would have been speaking a different language. But when you stay out and you are enabling what is happening. Because if you don't come out to vote, it shows that you have voted also.
You're an enabler.
Exactly. Better you vote. When you come out to vote, it's better that your number is captured. Because when you don't come out to vote, you have allowed the person whose vote you were protesting against, you didn't want to come out to vote, you're actually giving the person the vote. Because declaration of votes is just by simple majority. So it's important that we have that. But I think that the challenge we have, or the gap, is this. In our schools, we teach civic education now. But civic education is taught up to SS3, where children are just maybe 15, 16. And that period from 16 to 18, there's no education. We don't have a conscious way of capturing them and keeping them, with information that will lead to that transition. So you have somebody who is 18, he's not looking forward to going to get a ballot paper. Unless something happens, there's a particular program, and the person is 19, is trying to that. Just imagine where we have a program, as you are getting out of secondary school, there's a conscious program, either by the National Rotation Agency or anybody, so that on your 18th birthday, celebrating your 18th birthday, one of the things you go to do is get registered, get your voter's card, and you keep that pressure or that information on. It will give people the encouragement to want to come out to vote. So all of these things we're talking about that, and I agree with what Hamza said about the AFCC and the way the security agents do that. So when you speak with it, and really I must commend the Navy, because I just said we had a meeting with them on Tuesday, and the Chief of Naval Staff actually sent a representative to that meeting, and they told us what they were going to do, and that's exactly what they did. And I'm sure that's what also led to the success that we had for the first time in the riverine areas in Ondo State. So you have that situation in that same polling unit where you saw the DSS, you know, arresting that person. The EFCC came there. But for me, I felt it was more like a show than an action, because you are coming there with all of the branding and people are seeing you. The people who were actually selling the vote were right in front of the EFCC people. And they even had banter with the person, you know, and they left. They didn't even stay up to 5 minutes. They didn't even stay up to 5 minutes. So now the vote selling and buying has become a trend in our elections. What I expect is this. The FCC, to do a proper job, don't go with all of those brands. Ensure they had about over 200 wards in that place. Why don't you send at least one officer that is not wearing uniform? You mingle with the people. You just stay there and observe what is happening. Observe, because definitely you will see them. You don't even have to be a security agent to see these things happening. They start discreetly, but as time goes on, when they see that nobody is...
they come to the open.
Yes, they just come to the open. And it wasn't about one political... it was actually to the highest bidder. There was a place where one political party was selling 5,000, and then the people who collected 5,000 heard that other people were selling 10,000. They moved over. So it was to the highest bidder. In Edo, we saw... somebody, a party agent, stand up during election and say, if you vote for my political party, we'll pay you 20,000. And he was not arrested. The police is there. And that's why I come to the point about having the SP or the presiding officer being the one to say, take this person out. The police and the security agents, they are there. They know what is happening. Do they have to wait for the SPO to say?
Most of these security agents say, even if we arrest them, when they are taken to the police, they are released.
Yes, so that's
do they see the point in making the arrest?
No, but at least make the arrest. Let people know you have made the arrest and take it to a conclusive end. One of the problems with all of these arrests is that some of these people who make this arrest are not residents there. They are not residents there. So they come from other places, and then when you make an arrest, you have to hand over to an IPO that is in that place. So perhaps if you are the IPO and you leave after election, maybe the highest you can stay is still till Monday. And then you leave after the election. Who follows up that case? And because, again, now let's take for instance, this person that was arrested with cash in his vehicle, he's not the owner of that cash. Somebody gave him. You are going to leave the person who gave him that money and prosecute him. So just like Hamza said, you can actually trace the source of that money and get the person in charge. And what we have advised is, you get this person. You have political leaders in that particular area. Maybe they are the ward leaders, they are the local government chairpersons of that political party. They also should be held liable, because if they didn't make that money available, it wouldn't go. Do you know that there was a particular polling unit we went to, as NEC officials were setting up? We had somebody making a call and telling the person, that money you were giving, you have to bring it here. If you don't bring it here, you won't sleep in your house today. I'm telling you, this happened live. So people are calling, that money you are supposed to have been here. Make sure you bring that money. If you don't bring that money, you will not sleep in your house today. So is it not somebody who gave somebody that money to bring to the food? Then we get the person there, and at the end of the day, the person is released, because we have not captured the real people in the entire mix. And Hamza mentioned issue of inclusion and...
so we have to cut the head of the snake.
No, you just definitely, because if you don't cut the head of the snake, it will grow back.
Besides the money factor, what other factors actually influence the turnout of the election?
So, like for instance, interestingly, the woman I interviewed that's 93 years, I'm sure she's even more than 93 because she was really old. Unfortunately, the beavers didn't capture her, but she was not disturbed about the fact that the beavers, people testified that when she came for the 2023 election, they captured her immediately, but they didn't capture her. I asked her what has been her interest in doing. She said, number one, she cannot stay at home where election is happening and she will not come out to vote. She was being practically carried. You know, and then number two, she has been hoping for a better Nigeria. She cannot say that it's not improving, it's improving. If she dies, she wants to die a happy person that she has contributed to that. And I was wowed. And I was imagining that, imagine young people have this kind of mentality. that when you come out to vote, you're actually contributing to seeing a better Nigeria, a better governance, where you can hold people accountable. But when you stay out, you enable them to continue to do what they were doing. So number one is the mentality of people that they have. Oh, votes are not counting. But I keep asking people, if votes are not counting, why is it that politicians are paying more money for our votes? Why? Because you don't want to put money where your return on investment is zero. We just established the fact now that political office is where you have one of the highest return on investment. So if you don't do all of those things to get elected. Now, before the election, campaign was not, you have these razzmatazz especially in the Southwest. It was calm. The citizens were even concerned that they have not seen where they will give them T-shirts and all of that. It was not happening. I said, don't worry, they will bring out the money on election day.
And they did.
And that was what happened. So increasingly, aside from the mega campaigns, maybe the campaign they go to the local government headquarters, we're no longer seeing those that you see drums on the street every time, 247, until they say campaigns are no longer there. It's not there. And people are saying, no, there's hunger in the land, though. I said, you see this thing here? I said, it's money they used to do those. Don't worry, they are keeping the money. And there's another thing. We have also found that the connivance of community people, especially community leadership.
Okay.
So you go to a community and they say, if you are not going to vote for this so person, don't come out to vote. That's happening.
You'll be threatened.
Yes. If you know you are not going to vote for so person, don't come out to vote. So you are imagining somebody has come out, spent money, putting electoral processes together, gotten people, and then on the day of election, the person is getting 0 votes.
Because of the threat.
Because of the threat. So people don't come out, and that's why, that's another thing. I think the security agents need to be able to do that. I think it was in either Oshun, when we had a meeting with the DSS and all of that, and that was when the trend started coming, and we started seeing that that's happening. So the connivance of the community leaders, and even religious leaders now, if the religious leader say this is our candidate, they will tell you. So you just know, our Oga at the top has said this is where we should go. There's no need. If you don't believe it, you can just say something happened though. That's why you didn't come out, because you don't want to offend anybody. That's happening. The issue of intimidation is also there. Now, one thing that happened in this Ondo election, and I see from most of the polling units, citizens themselves, after voting, they deliberately show their ballot paper. The polling unit I spent most of the time, the INEC official there, she almost lost her voice. She had to now threaten that if we see you show your paper, there were security agents there. Do you understand what I'm saying? There were security agents there. If we see you show your paper again, we're going to declare your vote null and void. You will know, in fact, we will bring it out from this box and we'll do that. But immediately after she said that, the next person that voted did the same thing. And security agents didn't do anything.
So, Mr. Nick, what is the point of having 30-something thousand security agents, during election? What is the point of having these people there? If this, what Faith just outlined now can still happen, what is the point?
Well, I think deployments are informed by the total number of polling units and collation centers. And in this election, for example, we had a total number of 4,154 centers plus polling units. We had 3,933 polling units. And also don't forget that Ondo is peculiar in the sense that apart from having the longest coastline in Nigeria, it borders about 5 to 6 states. It borders Kogi State, Osun State, Ogun State, Edo State, Delta State. And you need also to secure the inland waterways. It's not enough for you to escort the ANEC officials to their polling units and escort them back. You must also secure the maritime environment. That is, you must also have gunboats, because on those days, hoodlums come out also to hijack ANEC officials, as we saw in 2016, where ANEC officials were coming back from Isedo from Ilaje to Akure, and on their way, they were hijacked ballot boxes were stuffed by those hoodlums, and they were compelled to take them back. You know, so you need sometimes that kind of deployment in order to meet these exigencies. And also don't forget, and I've said this before, that in the general election, the challenges are such that they are thinly spread. They are thinly spread, and most of these people who constitute campaign councils, membership of campaign councils, like these, our governors, excellencies, each one will be concerned with his own turf, with his own area. But where you have off-cycle governorship elections, you will see 10 to 20 governors converging in a state with their followers and with other things, you know.
What are the other things?
that are likely to be deployed to influence the conduct of the election in favor of their candidate. So, you know, the concerns are many, because all those things that are likely to conspire against the election they increase in number. Whereas in a general election, you could see that the security people are thinly spread. Everybody is thinly spread, because you are dealing with over 100 and something polling units and collation centers, and you need to deploy to have at least some presence, security presence in this area. So these are the considerations.
Okay.
And I think for some time, and I think this can be supported empirically, since we started conducting off-cycle elections, there has been a correlation between confidence in the process and the presence of security agencies. Once people see the police, the security agencies ahead of the election, and they even do what they call show of force, it sends a message to miscreants that for this period you cannot, operate. I know in time past, even before off-cycle elections became the norm, based on court orders, that in some areas where there were miscreants, what the security agents used to do was that, for example, in Metama, if they knew of a gang of miscreants, on a Friday or Thursday before the conduct of the election, they invite their gang leader to the police station. And once the guy does not return, it will send a message to his followers that they have to behave themselves. But now it has, things continue to change. And the security agencies too continue to change their modus operandi.
Okay.
And but we hope that in future, as elections become routine, and as each stakeholder performs his own role, because we are saying now that we need to work on the political class.
Okay.
We began with INEC.
Because of time.
We began with INEC, and INEC consistently kept reforming itself. And it, the media and civil society kept keeping INEC on its toes. And it's still being done. And you can see that INEC tries to respond to these scrutinies. We need to visit similar vigorous and rigorous scrutiny on the political class.
Okay, thank you very much, Nick, for that. We need to visit the political class, and that brings me to the next question. Although I wanted you to speak to the demographic trend at the last election, but you will. But let me ask Hamza this question. Nick said something about, you see different, governors and state actors, leaving their domain to go to where the elections, is taking place. That brings me to the question of party politics and alliances, the impact on off-cycle election. How do we begin to manage that?
Interesting. It's here to stay. Off-cycle election is here to stay. I know President Jonathan was advocating that we need to find a way to have elections at the same time, but it's practically impossible. Is it that we want to cut short on people's tenure to then make them run during the general elections? But I think maybe is to have a clear guideline on how they can engage. Again, you cannot say that, because again, the Constitution allows for freedom of movement and association. So where is the place of the Constitution? Where is the place of the guideline? Where is the place of morality? Because if you look at morality and what is right, then people are not supposed to interfere with a process that is supposed to be free, fair, and credible. Because if you interfere, what you do is you remove transparency and accountability out of it and take away, you know, the faith that people should have in the entire value chain. So I think it's to have leaders that have morals, you know, run the affairs of state. It's okay to want to show alliance. It's okay to want to support. Yes, go for campaign rallies. But I think the, you know, 2 days before election, everybody should pull out. This is the indigents. You know, this is something that has to do with the indigent. If you're not an indigent, what are you doing in the state? Even we as observers, we don't interfere. We only observe and report. Media only covers. Security agencies provide security of life and property. So why are you there? And, you know, our elder statesman talked about other things. We know the other things. Some of them are, they're taking, you know, all these so-called touts and talks that they've given substances to take so that they misbehave. Because most of them, when you even look at electoral violence or offenses, it's not the indigents that commit those offenses. I've seen during election where they import and export people, criminal elements. You know, you see them gangs, and I don't know.
And they come in days to the election.
Yes, they even stay in hotels where some
to
of us are
acclimatize
staying.
with
You go for breakfast, you know that this is a criminal, obviously because of how they look and how they are behaving, even how they are interacting with their so-called gang members, and you wonder, how did they, together with you, come to this state? They are also there for their own mission, as you are for your own, you know, law-abiding mission. So I think that, you know, maybe INEC has to lead this front, this campaign, and talk to these governors and say, yes, it's okay to come to the state to support your party and their candidates, but you have to excuse us to do our work. And maybe have security agents, also call them.
But like you said, most politicians are not ready, even to the D-Day.
Again, that's the place of morality. And this is a wake-up call to citizens. And I agree with Faith. If you don't engage, don't complain. No. Because if you don't engage, why are you complaining? You're complaining that things are going bad. But for you to fix them to be right, you're saying you would not engage, you will not vote, you will not get registered to vote. It's none of your business. If it's none of your business, then allow the people who have taken this process as a business to mind the business. Because obviously it's now becoming a business for some people, because we're not supposed to have transaction of vote buying and vote selling. It's only in business transaction you do this. So I think that if we have, so you have over 2 million people that are registered to vote. If you count the person who won, the running, you know, the runner-up and the 2 other runners,
not up to 1 million.
It's not up to 500,000. So it means that about 25% decided the outcome of this election. Not even up to 50%. So I think whatever happens in the next 4 years in Ondo State, people should not complain. And I think we need to start telling people the truth, because as civil society, we want to give hope. No, if things are going bad, then it is the consequence of your actions.
Okay, all right, thank you. Madam, now from the outcomes of this Ondo election, what lesson can be, you know, gotten from it for the subsequent off-cycle election, like the one we are going to have in Anambra? What lesson can be learned?
The first lesson is that when citizens don't engage the process, anything can come out. And as citizens, increasingly we have seen that they are the most important in this value that we are looking at. They're the most important, but they have not really taken that center role. They need to be able to take that center role. There has to be proper coordination with the security agents. For instance, I agree that, you know, the police is the lead agency, but there's no need to bandy those numbers. Let's assume they have 5,000 places and you are saying you want 4. That's about 20,000 at the maximum. 20,000. So why are you talking about 35,000, 36,000 that you know you will not deploy? So if you have, then other agencies will bring their people. But if for Ondo, the police are taking 20,000, I'm just giving 5,000 because they have about 4,000 different areas. The polling units are just about 3,000 plus. If you put the RAGs, the local government, maybe the INEC headquarters and all of that, I'm giving them 5,000 places to go to, and you want to put 4 people. The maximum you need for deployment in Ondo State would have been 20,000. So we need to be able to get that right. Increasingly, that's what we need to do. Then there should be better synergy between the different the different security agencies. Because that engagement that we had, you could see that the other security agencies were actually calling out the police. They were actually, each time they say, oh, we know that the police is the lead agency, but we see this happen, There has to be a better coordination. And then I need to strengthen whatever logistics magic that happened in Ondo. They should strengthen it and make sure that it works better. Then the young people, we need them to come out and
Young people are making, they're growing in other climes. Trump just appointed a 27-year-old lady to be press secretary of the White House.
But we need them to elect a young person.
All right, thank you very much.
In 30 seconds, your thoughts. In 30 seconds, please.
My thoughts is, my prayer is that INEC will sustain this momentum, particularly against Anambra and other elections up to 2027.
All right, thank you very much. No,
yes.
We cannot take
We can't take more. Yeah.
So
Nick Dazang, former Director of Voter Education and Publicity, INEC. Thank you so much for your time. And Hamzat Lawan, Chief Executive Officer, Connected Development. We thank you for coming. And my sister, Faith Nwadishi, Executive Director, Center for Transparency Advocacy.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
So we take a break. When we return, our second topic will begin.
Hey Nigeria, ready to breathe cleaner air and save money? Let's talk about gas. Drive with CNG, the smart, cost-effective choice. Fill up for less and travel further. Save money, save the planet. Switch to LPG for cooking. It's cleaner, healthier, and better for environment. Say goodbye to smoke and eye problems. Do you know Nigeria is a gas nation ranked 9th globally with over 209 trillion cubic feet of gas reserve? Gas isn't just for cooking and driving. It powers industries too. Cleaner, cheaper, and more efficient. And the best part, conversion centers are popping up everywhere. It's never been easier to switch to gas. Join the cleaner energy revolution. Choose LPG for cooking and CNG for your vehicles. Clean energy for brighter future. This message is brought to you by the Office of the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Gas, supported by the Nigeria Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, NMDPRA.
My champs, they use energy at school.
Your champs need nourishing energy. Give them the new and improved Milo at breakfast.
It has nutrients that support energy release. Milo!
Hey, come and see the cool sales in here. Everything's on discount.
Yeah, I saw it already. But you know what? I've been thinking we should focus more on making things than just buying stuff.
What? You mean we shouldn't go for these awesome...
No. Hear me out, Nkechi. We are always chasing after new toys, upgrading gadgets, and buying things we don't really need. But what if we use that money to create something special?
Like what?
Anything! Instead of getting another fancy pair of shoes, we could start our own cool business together.
You mean we should become entrepreneurs?
Exactly! We could use our smart thinking to make something awesome for people. We might even make a big difference in our neighborhood.
You know what? You're right. We can learn a lot about money too.
Awesome! Let's be the heroes of our own story. Together, we can make a big change and break free from just buying stuff all the time.
One right action can make a big difference, right?
I think Amaka should just move out of the house. Yes.
No. Standing out of the house is not the right thing to do.
Oh, there you go again with your sentimental family stuff.
Baby, if our aim is to stop this affair, it is best achieved under our roof.
You do something terrible and you'll be acting innocent.
What are you going on about?
Don't ask me that question again. You couldn't even control yourself in the presence of our visitors.
What are you accusing me of, woman?
My son, I don't know how serious you are with my daughter, but there's something that needs to be done urgently before you move any further.
Anything, just anything, just say it. I'm ready to do anything.
There is a spell that needs to be removed.
A spell?
Family forever, the story of our lives.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
You have to move from the point where you protect and defend your religion to a point where you also recognize the rights of the other person, of the other religion, and protect it. So if I am protecting my own territory and my own people and trying to emphasize their rights and protect their rights, I should also be thinking about how to protect the rights of the others.
Both Islam and Christianity recognize and defer to God, and both recognize the temporariness of the life of this world, and that ultimately we all go back to God for the day of reckoning, when everybody will render an account of his life on this temporary abode.
Now, the primary understanding of food security for many is the accessibility to basic nutritious food. But the sad reality, according to World Bank, is global food insecurity has increased from 135 million people in 2010 to 345 million people in 82 countries as of June 2022.
Wow, that's quite alarming,
Yeah,
Juma.
yes.
And the pointers to the issue are largely due to climate change and the influence of weather patterns.
And in fact, it has been estimated that the global food system is responsible for about a third of greenhouse gas emissions. But bringing it home now to Nigeria, Nigeria has over time felt the effect of climate change, especially across the vegetative regions of our country.
So experts agree that the climate change has increasingly become a major threat to agricultural productivity. So today, the Nigerian Society of Engineers are with us to further elaborate on their 2024 engineering conference with the theme Sustainable Engineering Solutions to Food Security and Climate Change. Already we have in the studio the engineer Margaret Aino Oguntala, who is a fellow Nigerian Society of Engineers, and she is the President, Nigerian Society of Engineers. You are welcome, madam, to the program.
Thank you.
Welcome.
While we still await your colleague, Professor Joshua Olaoye, but let's kickstart the conversation with this. Your conference is coming, and your theme is food security. Sustainable engineering solutions to food security and climate change. So, what are the specific effects of climate change on food security?
Well, the major changes are due to the crops now, particularly because the arable land area that we have is just 45%, and then the climate change effect has also come upon the crops and all of that. In those days, around this time, we'll be planting, there will be rains, there will be all kinds of things. But with the climate change now, all those things have changed.
Okay.
And so we don't have the rain when we should have it. We don't have the dry season when we should have it. So it's affecting the crops. And unfortunately, we also do not have enough, we have not made enough preparations for transportation, for particularly for storage.
Okay.
So the effect of climate change is a lot more now on food, on the production of food, and on agriculture.
Okay.
And that's why we have chosen that
theme.
That theme.
Well, while you were talking, your colleague just came in. Engineer Professor Joshua Olaoye is the chairman, National Institute of Agriculture Engineers. Professor, you're welcome to the program.
So let's quickly go, and as we my colleague has welcomed you, let's talk about the theme of this year, that is sustainable engineering solutions to food security and climate change. Actually, there's no agriculture without engineering.
Yes, actually, for agricultural engineering position in agricultural development, it must be stated that we need to mechanize agriculture. We must go beyond the subsistence level of farming, and we need to mechanize all operations that is involved through the various value chains in the production of agriculture. And that is why this year we are aiming at looking at sustainable solutions to providing these agricultural mechanization solutions to agricultural development to ensure that we have sufficient foods in abundance in our nation. Beyond that, the issue of climate change is very, very important. We must again look at how we will be able to now solve these problems of climate change by providing sustainable solutions through both crop production, crop processing, crop storage, and subsequently the distributions of the food as they are produced. So we want to see how we can mitigate all problems along this value chain and to provide sustainable solutions for our nation.
Okay, let me just stay with you. What innovative agricultural practices can Nigeria adopt to ensure sustainable food production?
Yeah, it will also interest us to know that the world is turning to regenerative agricultural production. And I want to say that in the past, when our forefathers are really carrying out their farming operation system, these are the methods they were using. But unfortunately, some people came around telling us that we need to move away from such. But these days, you discover that even globally, people are now talking about regenerative agricultural production system, where our forefathers are depending on rotational subsistence, where they carry out their various operational systems. And that is where we are now tending towards. We want to see how we can then develop regenerative agricultural production system, where we can then have the applications of new technologies like AI, like precision farming, to ensure that we now develop our agricultural system to ensure sustainable food production for the nation.
Indeed, climate change has affected the farming cycle in Nigeria. The rains have come, they've destroyed a lot of, we had floodings in some areas, and now we're talking about subsistence farming and, dry season farming in Nigeria. So let me bring in Ms. Engineer Margaret into the conversation. Renewable energy, systems that has been used in other countries like solar, wind, hydro and all that. How are we bringing in these innovations into the farming system here in Nigeria? How are the engineers doing it, to raise awareness, to educate our farmers, how do I put it, I lost that word actually, to key into these modern initiatives of farming?
Yes, so what we do in the Nigerian Society of Engineers in particular is to go as far as having, our plan now, we are collaborating with some organizations to have what we call demonstration farms. And in these demonstration farms, we will demonstrate to them, to the farmers, how to imbibe the culture of using renewable energy. Because without renewable energy, we all know that the fossil fuel and all of that is not just going out of fashion, but it's not even really readily available. So with renewable energy, they can store, particularly for storage, because with silos, you cannot operate any silos without energy. So, but when you have renewable energy, when you have solar system, and you can, it doesn't cost so much to have some of these things. So we are taking farming to settlements. We are collaborating with, we have 2 organizations in mind, in fact 3 right now. Asset Rise Limited, we have the National Agricultural and Land Development Authority. We're also collaborating with them to sensitize the farmers and teach them how to imbibe the culture of using renewable energy to solve some of the problems that they do have.
Is there any policy that you think can be implemented to ensure equitable access to nutritious food in this country?
Well, yes, I think so. I think the main policy would be really just massive agricultural production using mechanized farming.
Okay.
And once we do that, once we're able to do that, we have a lot of young people. We have a lot of land. So what we need to do is put those 2 together. And then with mechanization, and then with renewable energy and all those other new technologies, we will be able to put them together and harness the agricultural resources that we have. And also create jobs, you know, for people.
Yes, great jobs and bring in the younger generation,
Yes.
you know, to love, you know, and engage in farming. Prof, let me come to you. So what necessary steps, you know, should be taken to invest, like you said earlier, in mechanized farming in Nigeria?
Yeah, I think it's very important for us to know that if we really want to go into this massive agricultural mechanization, there are steps we need to take as a nation. Talking about the policy that will enhance not just importations of tractor, but that will enhance enabling environment for massive productions of agricultural mechanization equipment that we will use locally. We're talking about irrigation, when Madam President was talking about renewable energy. We must see how we solve this problem of water shortage through provisions of irrigation system. And then in providing this irrigation system, we depend on this renewable energy to provide small irrigation schemes that could be generated through solar energy, renewable energy, to power and supply sufficient moisture to farm the operations. Secondly, we must also ensure that if we must develop capacity for productions of this agricultural machinery locally, not just importing them. We can start by importing tractors. Tractor is not the only thing that is needed to solve the problem of agricultural mechanization. If we have tractors, then we must also have assembly plants developed locally to ensure we also have provision of job, not just importing whole component of tractor to Nigeria. There are parts that could be produced locally. We can then have a way by which we have signed agreement with the manufacturers of this machine and have assembly plants locally available, whereby we assemble all the parts, make it available to meet our specific needs. It's not all forms of agricultural tractor that is needed on our farm. There are specific ones for our different ecological zones that we must provide. And if we have all of this, then there will be a job for our people. There will be opportunity for local engineers too to also develop the other value chains along the processing line.
Have you already developed the capacity, the human capacity to do all this?
For human capacity, I want to say that we are doing our best as a nation. Recently, we've just had the remodeling of our curriculum for training of Nigerian engineers for most of these areas that we are talking about in terms of capacity development. We are talking about the CCMAS now, and the CCMAS is just being developed to ensure that we develop necessary human capacity that will meet our local needs. Okay. It's not the same syllabus you will use. A student that is being trained from ABU, from University of Ilorin, we don't want them to use this. We want them to domesticate the syllabus to meet the need of their environment. Okay. And that is what we are doing currently to ensure that we find solutions to our immediate environment, develop capacity, and then collaborate with other
the president is in Brazil now, and you know Brazil, we all know, has a unique way of farming in Brazil that is being copied around the world. And do you think that something like that will be discussed by the president so that we'll be able to bring the knowledge back to Nigeria?
It is our interest for such to be developed. In one of our presentations, we said we need to look at a model where Nigeria we evolved. Let's say in 1984, Nigeria and Brazil were almost at the same path.
Yes.
But they have to sit down, look inward to see how they would develop their local technology, indigenous, with the human capacity. Today, they are exporting tractor from Brazil. And in one of our presentations that Madam President made recently, we said Nigeria must develop such capacity. We must look inward to ensure that we develop all these machinery locally and seek assistance. With the collaborations of Brazil, we can look at their model. We can look at how we can also collaborate with them. Thank God we have a president right there now. We can have a possible way by which we can collaborate and ensure that not just importing, but develop the capacity for us to, in the nearest future, be able to be self-sufficient.
Okay, thank you very much. Now let's look at let's go to your conference now, the 2024 engineering conference. Can you just give us a brief? What are the expectations?
Well, thank you. It's expected that at least over 6,000 engineers will converge to discuss issues of food security and climate change. And in discussing food security, we're going to have discussions starting from irrigation system to production, to storage, to transportation, and eventually ensuring that food is well distributed, and then there's food on every man's table. Yeah. And then we are bringing in experts on both sides. I mean, on food security and on climate change, particularly renewable energy. Okay. We have a number of partners and sponsors who have experts in their own organizations that are coming to discuss this matter. So it is expected that at the end of the conference, we will be able to come up with recommendations on how to mechanize farming, how to produce and design and manufacture farming agricultural equipment, and particularly the Prof has said it, because we need to develop the capacity of our engineers, and particularly the young ones. And recently we had 1 or 2 workshops for young engineers on farming. So it is expected that at this conference, a lot of that discussion will come up. Okay. And we're also going to talk about standards, international standards of concerning agriculture and renewable energy. So some of our partners are already on ground. Some of the panelists are already on ground, ready to roll. So I would say that by Friday, we'll be able to come up with recommendations that will enable the government to come up with policies to mitigate food insecurity and then climate change.
Are you engaging government in this conference? Because many times, this is not the first conference. You've had several conferences.
This is our second as president.
It's my first.
It's the first.
And there have been several recommendations and all that. So how do you engage government?
Thank you
for
that. Yes, yeah. Thank you for reminding me of that. So for this conference, we have a strategic partner in the Federal Ministry of Agri and Food Security. So they are strategic partners for this conference. And we paid a visit to the Honorable Minister. He's going to give the keynote address. So they are partnering with us to ensure that we have a good conference. And that also means that the take home, the outcomes of the conference will be easily absorbed by the ministry. So the ministry is part of this conference. So that means we have engaged the government. We went to them as soon as we chose the theme. And it aligns perfectly with the ministry, and they are partnering with us on it. So we expect that there will be no problem.
Agriculture is not about just food. It's all about, livestock and all that. We have a separate ministry now for livestock. So how are you, what's the synergy between your organization and the subnationals? Because most of the farmlands are in the rural areas.
Well, there must be synergy between all the stakeholders along the different subsystems of farming operations. And so recently when we had the Ministry of Livestock is developed, we made move to discuss and to interact with the chairman of the, without engineering of these structures, we need to really put engineering into it. Without engineering them, there may not likely be sustainable development as expected. We must go beyond. So we've interacted with the chairman, and we are saying that engineering component must also be imbibed. And we had discussion going on to see how the engineering unit of the livestock ministry will also be properly integrated right from the onset, so that we'll be able to now ensure that we mechanize all the operations along the value line. And we are ready, and we told them that we are open to provide necessary solutions.
Will they be part of the conference?
Well, we've invited the ARCN Council and Professor Sabatu will also be on ground to work with us. The Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria, yesterday I had interaction with them. He's sending somebody to represent and to give his word at this conference. National Center for Agricultural Mechanization, NISPRI, they are also being invited to be part of this, and they will be part of our panel discussion where they will tell us even the local technology that they have developed, both at NISPRI, at INCAM, that will meet the needs of Nigeria. And we are looking forward to seeing them and to also have useful interactions with them.
Okay, madam. Tell us about the conference venue. When is it starting, the venue, and what impact do you envisage it will have on the stakeholders?
Well, the venue of the conference is the Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry along the airport road. And it's starting today. The conference starts today, yes, with the collection of materials this morning, and then we have the presidential cocktail later in the evening. The opening ceremony is tomorrow, and that's where we expect all stakeholders to be present, at least from the beginning, and add their voice to the keynote, the first plenary, and all of that. And then it goes on until we have our AGM on Thursday. Okay. So we expect that there will be a lot of useful discussions. Like we have said earlier, we have brought in a lot of people, all the stakeholders, even policymakers, in the industry, to ensure that we have robust discussions around finding sustainable solutions to food security and climate change. So I expect that there will be a lot of opportunity too for collaborations and expansion of networks.
Like we're doing now.
Yes.
Okay, who should be part of the conference? Yes. Who are you expecting to be part of the conference?
Seriously, we expect everybody to be part of the conference. Because food security and climate change concern everybody.
Yes.
But essentially, we have the stakeholders in the oil and gas. We have Total Energies is coming in to discuss what they are doing in the area of renewable energy. We have BUA is coming to talk about food security, what they are doing. So everybody is coming with his own personal experience. So we expect that everybody who is concerned with the development of Nigeria, with building capacity, with solving the problems of Nigeria, and particularly with preferring sustainable solutions, to be there.
So what no plan is perfect.
Sure.
Will there be challenges to implementation of the resolutions reached at the conference?
There might be, but like you said, no plan is perfect. But we plan to follow up with, not just come up with the communique and the recommendations. We will follow them line by line and ensure that we do our best in ensuring the implementation of these recommendations. And that's why we started by bringing in the Federal Ministry, which is responsible for everything concerning agricultural production along the value chain of agricultural value chain and climate change. So we expect that we will do a lot of follow-up. We'll do whatever can be done, a lot of advocacy, so that by the time we come back next year, we'll be able to say to you what you achieved, what we're able to do with the recommendations and communique of this year.
All right, great. Professor Olaoye, your parting shots.
Well, we believe that this gathering will give us another opportunity to do it right, to look for possible way by which we can use our indigenous technology, advance them using mechanization to promote and advance agriculture in Nigeria.
Okay, Engineer Professor Joshua Olaoye, Chairman, National Institute of Agricultural Engineer. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your time. And Engineer Margaret, I know, Oguntala, she's a fellow of the National Institute of Engineers, yes. Nigerian Society of Engineers, yes. And as always, it's been a pleasure having you as the first president, female president. We're glad you're still here.
Thank you.
So it's been a pleasure having you and giving us your input on the conference.
Thank you. I hope you will be at the conference.
We hope so.
We expect to see you too.
Yes, we wish you a successful outing there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So you're excited now, gender?
Of course. When she came here the first time, we were all excited. Yeri and I were so excited. That
all right, that's good.
In a male-dominated, when a woman is there.
Thank you.
Paving the way for other ladies to come up.
Yeah.
Okay, that's Good Morning Nigeria for today. Thanks so much for your time. Join us again tomorrow for another episode of the program. I am Jumai Yusuf.
And I am Nadim Alade. Do have a good day.